Scott McLeod is managing editor of the Cairo Review of Global Affairs and a former Middle East correspondent for Time magazine. He joins us now via Skype from Cairo to discuss this further. And Scott, good to see you. These are deep-rooted problems, aren't they?
Well, I'm not sure about that, Michael. I think if you're referring to the Christian-Muslim sectarian clashes that seem to be in the headlines, I think we need to be careful about calling these sectarian clashes. Definitely there's an element of that there. There has been, over the years, some Muslim-Christian tensions in Egypt. But in general, the Christians here number about 10 million. It's a very large community in Egypt. It's about 10% of the population. And they have lived here for hundreds of years with Muslims. And we are not seeing a civil war between Muslims and Christians right now.
But what we are seeing is an uptick, aren't we? And particularly since the end of the Mugabe regime. Why is that, and why is it concerning to the Copts?
I think we're seeing a number of things. One of them is the fact that we have a vacuum in Egypt. You know, we had a regime of the Mubarak presidency for 30 years that kept a real tight clamp on the country, a very tight clamp. When Mubarak left, the armed forces effectively took over the country, but in a kind of de facto partnership with the revolutionary forces or the uprising forces. So really nobody is completely in charge right now. And you have the street demanding things. You have the military trying to do what it feels is best for the country. And in general, you have a vacuum. So you do have some mischief that is happening in this vacuum. You have people making mistakes. You have people trying to push the envelope and see where they can get with their efforts or their power. So you do have a vacuum, and these events we're seeing are part of that vacuum.
The military, though, it knows how to run the country. It's not the first time. What is the chance that the military might use this violence as a pretext for tightening their own grip on power, perhaps even delaying elections?
Well, it's a good question. Actually, there are many rumors in Cairo today that the military even is encouraging this problem to show the people that, that they're needed, that a tight hand on Egypt is needed, and kind of perpetuate an authoritarian system here. I think that that's a conspiracy theory that we'll have to see how that plays out. But I think that certainly the military's, one of their main concerns is stability in Egypt. And when you have sectarian problems, that can be a great concern. But I want to go back to my original point. We have to be very careful about not exaggerating the sectarian nature of what's happening. Coptic Christians went out to protest, and they feel they have some legitimate grievances. They were not protesting against Islam per se. They have some domestic grievances, and they were met with force by the security forces. And as with any protest we've seen in Egypt, when you have a clash between the authority and the people, there's going to be a problem. And that is more of what's happening in the streets of Cairo today than a sectarian clash per se.
The Copts weren't protesting Islam, no they weren't, but they were protesting the burning of their churches and what they perceive as an intolerance towards them. And also there seems to be more of a tolerance towards the Salafists, the more extreme side of it. That must be worrying for the Copts. It's left them sort of with nowhere to go.
Again, I caution not to exaggerate this. You had a few hundred Copts involved, maybe maximum a few thousand in the demonstrations yesterday. In the Cairo area, you have millions of Coptic Christians. If the Copts were so alarmed and concerned, they could bring 1 million or 2 million people into Tahrir Square. We have to put this into perspective. This is not the entire Coptic community fighting the majority Muslim community in Egypt. These are, I wouldn't call them isolated, but these are incidents that are bound to happen in a political vacuum, in a very uncertain transition in the country. Certainly Copts are nervous, and there have been some attacks by apparently by some Muslim elements against Christians and vice versa. But that is not to exaggerate that the whole country is in flames in a Muslim-Christian civil war. We need to be very careful about that.
No suggestion of that. But, yeah, appreciate your thoughts there, Scott. Good to talk to you. Scott McLeod, Managing Editor of Cairo Review of Global Affairs, joining us there. Thanks so much.